Let me give you a little summertime tip that you might not have heard of before, and most pro fishermen know but are really, really secretive about it. Big worms in the summertime. When most people are finesse fishing little tiny drop shots and little Ned rigs and little things like this, little bitty tiny small weights, little bitty tiny small plastic, and those work good. Don't get me wrong, those work good. A lot of the pros, in order to get that big kicker fish during the course of a day, in order to try to win a tournament, will go to a big worm. I'm talking a 10, 11-inch worm. This worm right here is a big lucky strike called a sneaky snake. It's 11 inches long. 11 inches long. Take a look at that thing right there. 11 inches. Believe it or not, in clear water, in some of the lakes you're finesse fishing, this bait in the summertime, they never see. So you'll catch big fish that won't even look at some of those little bitty tiny popcorn things, will bite this bait, and you'll be able to catch bigger fish than you can ever imagine in the summertime. Now, I use 3 or 4 different type rigs on it. One is just a Texas rig. I use a big 5/0 Daiichi Jimmy Houston hook, wide gap hook. Now, let me tell you, when you're rigging Texas rig, and I just want to show you one thing on this. A lot of people, when they rig Texas rig, now most of these worms will have a flat side on them, will rig where the point of the worm comes up the flat side. Other people will rig it opposite that. Now, here's the way I like to do. When I rig this, I'm going to run in about 1/4 of an inch like you normally do. I'm going to come around, and I'm going to have the point of the hook come into the flat side of that worm. Now, a lot of times I will skin hook, which I'm going to come back here, skin hook, just back where that bend is, get that mark, go straight through, just a little bit of an angle, come up, and you're going to be able to skin hook that. Now, you see the advantage I've got. I've got the point of the hook laying on the flat side. That's exactly what you want to do. Have the point of the hook laying on the flat side. Then you can just simply skin hook it, and you've got it made right there. That's one rig. I've got another worm right here. It's a real good worm for this technique. This is a Lucky Strike Baby Huey. This is a 10-inch worm. This worm's got a little bit different type tail on it, a paddle tail to create a lot of movement there. Now, here's one thing. Here's a couple of ways that I will rig these big worms in the summertime also. This is a Scrounger Head Jig. This is a jig that we fish in deep water around ledges and things like that. It's a Scrounger head, and all I'm going to do on this is simply take that worm and worm it on. Now, this is going to give you incredible, incredible action. This Scrounger head wobbles, so as you drop it, it'll fall down to the bottom. It'll fall, that tail drop in there, fall right down to the bottom. When you pull it, it just wiggles and wobbles like that, just, and it's got incredible action. Now, here's another little buddy of mine up in Tulsa, Tommy Biffle, developed a bait for Gene LaRue, and it's called Hardhead. And what this bait is this is a jig head that's got a rocker head on it. So in other words, everything's free. Now, you can do this one of 2 ways over here. You can rig it either totally weedless, or you can rig it straight. To rig it, that thing totally weedless, where you can fish it around a lot of deep brush, you want to, again, do just exactly what I've done before. You come out the round side of the worm, come around here, come up like such, and you're going to put your hook back in where the point of your hook comes out on the flat side. Come in like this, bend it up a little bit. I'm going to come right straight down. I've got a totally weedless rig. Now, that's another good setup right there. Now, remember, when you're using 10 or 11-inch worms, they're a little bit heavier than most of the worms that you might be using, so they're a little bit heavier. You can sometimes go with a lighter weight. This little head right here is a little 3/16 ounce head. I'd go with a lighter head if I'm fishing it over grass. That way it can kind of hit the top of that grass and won't go through it. Dynamite big fish bait in the summertime. Finesse fishing's good for big bass, big baits.
Perfect. That's cool.